Hello and assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Kashif Kamran, and today I'm holding a very important session. And this session is post mock assessments which I have carried out. And I have checked some 106 mocks, the AAA mocks for the September 25 exams, which were sent to me by the students. And I found some issues in those mocks. And I thought I should do a session with you to emphasize on those issues, to emphasize on those weaknesses, so that none of you are repeating those weaknesses or issues in your exam on the 1st of September on Monday. Now, I've already done the mock debrief for the question number 1 and 2, which is on my YouTube channel. And I will be doing the mock debrief for the question 3 tomorrow and uploading it on my YouTube channel. This is not a mock debrief. This is basically where I will be discussing about the problems and about the issues which I have identified when I was checking the mock exams of the students. So this is an extremely important session where I will be talking about the problems. Now let's go one by one into each of the questions we had in the mock, the question number 1, 2, 3, and then decide what to be, what issues the student face. Okay, let's first open the question number 1, 50 marks. And to me, this is the big question. This is the most important question when you're performing in your exams. And how you perform in this exam will really set the tone of your success and failure. But yes, when I talk about how you perform in this question sets the tone for your success and failure, it has to be done within the stipulated time. And so many times I have emphasized on the time management for this question that you have roughly 98 minutes for this question, of which 24 minutes is to read and plan and 74 minutes is to write. I have seen some mock where the student have written time ends here and they were into the part D. They were doing the part D and they said time end here. They wrote few sentences and then they said time end here and they move on to the question number 2. Now, this is exactly what I want. This is exactly the strategy I have been emphasizing on, which is known as a stop and move on strategy. Where the time ends, stop, move on. Because you need to maximize the opportunities. You need to maximize the 100% paper rather than you're just maximizing the 50 marks, because you will never pass this way. So I really appreciate those students who are listening to me and who mentioned in the mock paper the time ends here and they moved on to the next question. That was a very wise strategy you're making use of, and that is a strategy I support as a tutor. Now, in the question number 1, this question number 1 of the mock was set around an organization known as a Regal Leisure Group. The problems I identified in this question number 1 are as follow. Number 1, introduction in the briefing note being too big. We know whenever we start with the briefing note, we put the heading to, from, subject, date. And right after the date, we put the introduction. Now, introduction is an integral part of the briefing note, and you're getting your communication skill marks if you put the proper structure of the briefing note. But sometimes the students are writing a way long introduction. What are we writing in the introduction? We're simply telling examiner that, for example, if you know the September 25 mock, in the September 25 mock, we have to do 4 things. Planning matters for the first year audit. We have to do the risk of material misstatements. We had to do procedures on impairment and ethical issues. So you're simply writing that the purpose of this briefing note is to evaluate the planning matters, comma, risk of material misstatement in planning the first year audit, full stop. Moreover, we need to focus on procedures on impairment and ethical issues, full stop. That's hardly 2 sentences. Introduction is just a formality. Introduction is just an integral part of a briefing note. But you cannot start writing 6 lines, 7 lines in an introduction, because you just need to show the examiner that I know there is an introduction and I know the introduction only covers the 4 requirements. Now, even if you have seen my mock debrief, which is available on the YouTube, you can imagine how, to what extent I wrote the introduction. It was hardly 2 sentences. Yes, I found some very good introductions of the student, which were going up to 3 to 4 sentences, but still was good as compared to I found some students writing like 6 to 7 lines of introduction. And then you say time management is an issue in AAA. You're wasting your times on petty things. Introduction is just a formality, but you have to do it, but hardly 2 sentences that I have. This, the purpose of the briefing note is to do this, 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 and this, full stop. That is it. The purpose of the briefing note is to look into the planning matters, risk of material misstatement, procedures on impairment, and ethical issues, full stop. That's it, just like one and a half sentence. But that is it. But I fail to understand that I found so many students writing like 6 to 7 lines. I'll show you a glimpse of some student answers shortly. Number 2, materiality. You know there are 3 technical marks for materiality. So if you get an audit risk question or if you get a risk of material misstatement question, you know there are 3 technical marks for materiality. So if you have a 16 marks or a 19 marks risk of material misstatement, just like in the September 25 mock, we had a 19 marks risk of material misstatement. So from those 19 marks, 3 marks are allocated for materiality. And these are 3 technical marks for materiality. So 19 minus 3, you're left with 16. But are you doing a just treatment of the 3 marks? That was my concern. Materiality is for 3 marks and need 3 proper sentences to fetch those 3 marks. Let me show you a glimpse of a student. What exactly you need to do for those 3 marks. Are you writing less than that? Then that's very bad. I hope you can see in front of your screen some of the student answers now. Um, Look at this student answer in front of your screen. The student wrote an introduction over here. You can see this introduction is quite fair enough, but honestly, I could have written 50% less than this. I could have just written the purpose of this briefing note is to evaluate the planning matters for the first year audit, comma, risk of material misstatement, procedures on impairment, and the ethical issues, full stop. I could have written just 1.5 sentence and wrap it up. I would still have got the same marks the other student had. You're not getting any incremental marks for writing introductions longer, but this is quite good. Then what I need to address is the materiality paragraph, right? Right under the heading of significant risk of material misstatement. Okay, just 1 minute. I hope I have shared the screen right. Can everyone see the screen, the student answer in front of you? Okay, thank you. Now, see, right under the heading of significant risk of material misstatement, that is also a problem. So many times I've seen students writing materiality before introduction. Why? So many times I've seen student writing materiality after introduction. Why? Have 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 not I told this hundred of times that you have to write the materiality heading under the heading of risk of material misstatement or under the heading of the audit risk? So you put the heading B, significant risk of material misstatement. Look at this, significant risk of material misstatement. And right over here, you will be putting the paragraph on materiality. Now, see what the student has done. The student was writing saying the materiality as per your requirement, so your is the partner, has been set on the profit before income taxes, which is 12.4 million. So the student is saying that the profit before income taxes is 12.4 million, and we have to base the materiality on that. Number one, the range of materiality on profit before income tax is 5 to 10%. You have to tell the range. A lot of time the students are missing on the range. You have marks for that. So you say this is the factor of materiality, profit before interest and tax. This is the range, 5 to 10%. Therefore, the materiality at the lower end will be 0.62 million and at the higher end, 1.24 million. So you calculated the materiality. So you are telling it's 5 to 10%. You then calculated it at 5%. You calculated at 10%, full stop. Then you get to the next paragraph and you said, as this is our new client. So the student has given the justification as this is our new client, which has planned for multiple expansion. It would be appropriate to set the materiality level at the lower end. Now, a lot of time I've seen students, they just say lower end and put a full stop. Now, you have to make the marker life easier. Not lower end, but continues the statement lower end of 5%, which is 0.62 million. So see, the student has told that the lower end is 5%, and this is 0.62 million. Now, this benchmark is just a starting point for determining the materiality, and professional judgment will be applied for determining materiality at the final level to be used in the course of audit. This is incremental. You want to write this? You don't want to write this? That's perfectly fine. The student has done excellent. But the student, the main things you need to pick is $12.4 million, the profit number, 5 to 10%, the threshold of the profit, calculating at 5%, calculating at 10%, then justifying what's your judgment. My judgment or student judgment is that it was a new client. So keeping it at the lowest level of 5% is justifiable, which is 0.62 million. You need to understand one thing important. I hope you can see another student answer here. See, I've colored the student answer in 3 different colors. That shows 3 different marks. The first mark is when you tell it's 12.4 million, you tell it's 5 to 10%, and you calculate. The second mark is you telling that it's a new client and we have to keep it lower. And the third mark is that you are telling that what exactly is the materiality. $620,000 is the materiality, which I will be using throughout the briefing note. So you can see the yellow, pink, and green color, which is splitting the 3 marks for you, which is very, very important. Now, I also made a comment somewhere, if I can show that to you. You are exercising a judgment here, right? You are saying that it is the first year audit. Some student can say that we have multiple risk in this scenario and the company is facing multiple risk. So we have to keep the materiality level lower. Some can say this is a first year audit. Now, there has to be a judgment on the determination of the materiality. So you're not just getting 3 technical marks here. You're also getting 1 extra professional mark for exercising your judgment. So judgment is important. So please ensure this is the minimum you're writing for materiality because it's for 3 marks. It's for 3 marks, so you have to do justice to that. Akshit, when it's silent, how many times I've told this, that silent means it's an existing client. Silent means it's a non-listed company. When the examining team wants to tell you it is a new client, they will specifically tell you this is the new client. And when they want to tell you it's a listed company, they will specifically tell you it is a listed company. But if the question is silent, silent means it's unlisted. Silent means it's an existing client. Is that clear to all of you? Right. So in this case of the mock exam, it was a new client, right? So being a new client, we have to keep the materiality threshold at the lower end, which is 5%. So you are not just getting 3 technical marks, you're getting 1 extra professional skill mark for exercising judgment. So please, for 3 marks, you cannot just write 1 sentence. 3 marks means at least you're writing 3 to 4 sentences justifying the materiality level. Okay. Just let's go back. And again, one thing which I am very critical of is the placement of the materiality. The students are not placing materiality paragraph at the right place in the briefing note. Where you have to place the materiality paragraph? Under the heading of risk of material misstatement. So in the mock exam, B, risk of material misstatement, then under that you put materiality, and then you start writing the risk of material misstatement. In the exam paper, you get an audit risk question. So you put the heading audit risk. Under the heading of the audit risk, you put the materiality paragraph. So please ensure where you are placing the materiality paragraph is important. Next, number 4, the planning matters. first year audit for the 5 marks question in part A of this mock was merely stated like sentences. Some of the students just mentioned sentences, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Planning matters, as if you're doing the AA paper. In the AA paper, we normally used to put sentences. It's not a AA paper. You're writing to the partner, and that planning matter is worth 1 mark. So at least you're writing properly with numbering, or some students stated client acceptance matters instead, not reading the note under the requirement 1A. It was a planning matter first year audit. I don't know what happens to the student literally. If I can show you the mock question paper, I hope you can see that in front of your screen. You look at the partner email, and the partner email is telling you discuss the matters specific to planning the initial audit engagement. Look at this. Discuss the matters specific to planning the initial audit engagement. How many times this topic has been done in the classroom, where I tell students planning matters for the first year audit. Even in my block 3 of my regular course, there is a topic planning. And in that planning topic, I've covered this particular topic, planning matters for the first year audit. You need to discuss the matter specific to planning of the audit, where it is mentioned that you need to discuss the matters in accepting the client. Look at this note number. Look at this note number. I simply don't like students who don't read these note numbers, because you're losing your communication skill marks if you're not adhering to the instructions, not just the technical marks. Look at this note number. What is this note number telling us? You do not need to discuss matters relating to whether it was appropriate for Baxter to accept the group as a client, as acceptance is confirmed. As acceptance is confirmed, you've already accepted Regal Leisure Group. Still student writing client integrity, still student writing ethical issues, still student writing competence. Is competence a planning matter? You're planning the audit. You've already accepted the client. Is competence is a planning matter? Is ethical issues a planning matter? Is client integrity a planning matter? What has happened to you, all of you? Have you not covered the topic planning? That shows the failure to read the note number. Honestly, tell me, what are planning matters? This is a new client. So the planning matter could be knowledge of business, could be to perform more analytical procedures to gather more understanding of the financial statement, corresponding with the previous auditor. Opening balances is a very particular planning matter because it's a new client. But even understanding of the laws and regulation about the group, about its subsidiaries, about its structure. But where is ethical issues? Where are competence? Where is integrity? Look at the statement of the partner. The partner is saying the client is already accepted. So if you are sleeping in the exam and then you say, I failed the AAA paper, what are reasons? How would I know the reasons that you were sleeping in the exam? You were not reading the note number. So I might be a little harsh in the session today, because I'm really frustrated that after so much guidance given to the student, you're still not getting the point. So is everyone clear on this? Was the question asking for client acceptance matter, or was the question asking for planning matters for the first year audit? Are you getting the sense, everyone? Right? So if any one of you has written about competence and about ethical issues and about client integrity, please ask a question to yourself. Have you read the note number? And I've found this in many answers. I criticized many students that why you wrote this. So please read the requirement carefully. Examining team tells that one of the strong reason why you fail the paper is that you're not reading the requirement, or you are answering the requirement the way you like it to be answered. So if you think, okay, the question number A is asking me client acceptance matters, and you're happily writing the client acceptance matter, then what can be done when the question number A is not asking you the client acceptance matter? So you're losing your 5 easy marks. Look at the second perspective, which I would like to address more importantly here. Student answers. AAA is a theoretical paper. I teach all the theoretical papers, AA, AAA, and SPL. And this is my main important point, that you cannot present the answer without headings. Unless and until you're writing procedures and actions, etc. But look at this student answer. Look at this. Matters specific to planning the first year audit. Look at this student answer. Look at this heading, entity and its environment. Those charged with governance, whatever he or she has written. But look at the way, previous auditor, internal controls. Look at the structure. Look at the structure of the answer. Hmm. Is this the good way to write headings followed by paragraphs? But look at the length of the paragraph. That's not big, that's not small. That's an ideal length for 1 mark. Look at another student answer. Look at this. Look at this. The student wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not saying this is bad because at least it's not like bullets. If you look at one, the one is going on 3 lines. The two is going on 3 lines. The three is going on 2 lines. The four is going on 3 lines. So that's quite a good depth. And I really appreciated the student answer when I commented to the student in the email. But which looks better, headings with paragraph or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Which is a more mature approach in a AAA paper? The headings and paragraphs. So please ensure that you follow headings and paragraph. And how many marks this question was for? 5 marks. Hypothetical assumption. Look at this student writing 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In a hope that out of the 6, 5 will be correct. Look at the 6. See what I will do with the 6. 6, and I will go to the highlighter and I will highlight it and say this will not be marked. Examining team will only be marking the first 5. And within the first 5, whatever is right and whatever is wrong. They will not even be bothered about reading any extra point you wrote after the marks are over. Come out of that illusion. Come out of that hypothetical assumption. You all become very positive when something is in interest of you, when something is in self-interest of you. And you all become pessimistic, the vice versa. So please ensure you're writing 5 points. I prefer that the answer of planning matter should be done in headings and paragraphs. The student answer I shown you before, the student answer was very good, but the only thing is should not have used numbers, instead headings. Is that clear to all of you? So this is another problem, right? Okay, just let's get back to the presentation. Okay, number 5. There was a issue in the risk of material misstatement in the mock exam if you have read the exhibit number 2, because you need to identify the risk of material misstatement. There was an investment in Aurora in exhibit number 2. I'll just show you that. Most failed to pick the risk that equity accounting for joint venture could be applied wrongly. This was a joint venture. I don't know, student went to subsidiaries and student went to wrong classifications. If you read this scenario, that was a clear joint venture. And you just need to be concerned about equity accounting. You just need to be concerned about has the management applied the equity accounting correctly. I want to show you something very nice over here. If you go back to one of the student answer and see, you know IFRS 18 is part of your September 25 exams. I just want to show how intelligent the student was. If I can just pick that student answer for you in a minute. See this student over here, identified as per IFRS 11, joint arrangements. The acquisition or the investment, sorry, is a joint venture, as Regal Group will have 50% shares, so on and so forth. The investment in joint venture should be recognized as an investment and accounting by using the equity method. Therefore, there is a risk that company might not account for this acquisition rightly. The issue is with acquisition, right? Investment may lead to over or understatement values of investment and under and overstatement of the profit and loss in the profit before financing and income tax section of the statement of profit and loss as per IFRS 18 regulation. The student used the proper word. You know that it is an investing activity, investment in joint venture. So it should be part of the investing section of your profit and loss now, as per IFRS 18. So it's something profit before financing and income tax. That would be affected if you're doing a wrong classification of your income from the investment in associates. I think I have a better version of the answer for student here. If I can show you that, just give me 1 second. Where student wrote this more clarified. I think there was one answer. I marked it and want to share that with you, uh, which was more clear and more appropriate. See this one in front of your screen. Look at this paragraph here. The student wrote, as per ICE 28, Regal Leisure needs to account for this investment with equity line method recording the investment in joint venture under the non-current assets in the statement of financial position and the share of profit and loss in the investment in joint venture under the investing section after the operating profit in the statement of profit and loss account. Read the statement yourself. See how how the student made use of the equity accounting, what to be done in the balance sheet, what to be done in the P&L, and where to put the share of profit or loss in the investment from joint venture, in which particular section as per IFRS 18. See how the student is clearly showing examiner that I'm alert to IFRS 18, I'm alert to different categories under IFRS 18. See, this is what is good. I don't know how many of you reached this point in time, but you still have time before Monday to ensure that how you draft and formulate your answer is important. So a lot of time the student just spoiled the joint venture. They treated the joint venture as a subsidiary, not, though the scenario was pretty clear that it is a joint venture. Okay, just a couple of more problems quickly from this question. The next point, the acquisition of Zenith in the exhibit number 2, student failed to pick it as a non-adjusting event under ICE 10 requiring disclosure. They talked about goodwill. They talk about goodwill will not be recognized. Just let me show you that how hypothetical you can be in exam. Look at this background information on your screen, and just let's read this down. Look at this. Look at this paragraph here. Let's highlight this paragraph. Look at this paragraph in yellow. The group is negotiating to acquire Zenith, a competitor that operates a chain of regional leisure club. It is likely that the acquisition will go ahead in the first quarter of the next financial year. It's a non-adjusting event. The anticipated purchase price is approximately 20 million. Anticipated purchase price. This is not yet confirmed because this acquisition will go ahead in the next quarter of the financial year. While the fair value of the identifiable net assets is around 17 million. The student took that anticipated purchase price, they took the fair value of the net assets, they determined the goodwill, they thought about the goodwill impairment, they thought about indicators of goodwill impairment, they thought about how to record the goodwill under IFRS 3. What are you doing? This was simply a non-adjusting event which requires a disclosure, and if disclosures are not made, the financial statements will be materially misstated. The the acquisition is material by nature itself. The acquisition is even material by amount. It's $20 million. That's the purchase price you're giving in. And even the net identifiable asset is 17 million. So it was material by amount and by nature, but it was a non-adjusting event which requires disclosure, and the financial statements are materially misstated. I don't know why the students stretch up to goodwill and as if you're recording it at the year end. I don't know what happens to the student. They try to bring every possible knowledge they have about financial reporting standards. The moment they see acquisition, they will not even think about is it before year end or after year end. They start to bring the knowledge of IFRS 3, goodwill, impairment. Students stretch up to impairment of goodwill even. I don't know what happens wrong with students. And then they ask the question, why we fail in AAA paper? So I hope you're sound on this, all of you. Uh, if I can just show you a quick glimpse of a student answer here, which is a good one on your screen now. See this, there is a risk that the disclosure hasn't been given or inadequately given in the financial statement, which could lead the misstatement in the financial statement. Look at this, how cleverly the student talk about a disclosure, either inadequate or not given. You didn't talk, you need to take this as a non-adjusting event. That's important. Look at this answer of the student. Another one quickly. See, the student even mentioned about ICE 10. This is a material non-adjusting event as per ICE 10. Therefore, there is a risk that the company might not disclose or inadequately disclose the financial statements will be materially misstated. This is relevant. So please learn if you have done these mistakes in your mock exam, and if you still want to improve upon, you still have chance till Sunday. Next, in Exhibit 3, the impairment situation. How many times impairment has come in exam? Students mostly fail to comment on the wrong calculation of value in use by the management, taking account of repairs to building in determining the future sale. Management was taking account of the repair to the building when they were determining the value in use. They were not taking the present condition of the building in determining the value in use, which is wrong. And that was obvious in this scenario. Management was considering repair to the buildings when they were determining the value in use. And you know that when you're determining the value in use, you have to take the present condition. And for that reason, the value in use, which is estimated by the management, is wrong. And for that reason, the impairment loss by the management is understated. Management has recognized impairment loss, which is wonderful, but the amount of impairment loss is understated. You need to be skeptical in AAA paper. If the management has recognized impairment, there could be a problem still. If management has recognized impairment, you need to identify the problem. You will not just stop that management has recognized the impairment. You know there are parameters of recoverable amount. There is a fair value. There is a value in use. A lot of sorry, lot of estimates are going in. A lot of estimates are going in, and in those estimates, the management could have management bias. Management could have fabricated the impairment loss. Management could have kept the impairment loss lower. You could have brought your skeptical mindset here, fetching professional skill marks around around your skill of skepticism. Not just the technical marks by writing that the value is in use is wrongly calculated, but you could be skeptical that is the management involved in any fabrication of the financial statement by keeping the impairment loss low, even though they have recognized the impairment loss. So never favor the management, right? Never favor the management. Just let me show you a quick scan of the student answer here that worked well. See this, the assumption is not in line with ICE 36 and not correct, as it should be based on the current use of the asset without any repairs and not the future sale. So you have to take the present condition of the assets, right? Not the condition of the asset with repair. So that's important. Look at the other student. Impairment. So the student is writing here, and the value in use, which is calculated at the present value of the future cash flows of the respective damaged asset in its current condition. Here, the value in use is incorrectly estimated, as it is the future sales proceed is calculated after repairing the asset. So that's perfectly right. So you have to be watchful of what you are doing, what you're writing in the accounting treatment. Sometimes you're writing the accounting treatment which makes you happy, but not the marking team. So there were obvious mistakes with the impairment accounting treatment. With the acquisition of Zenith, you failed to apply ICE 10. with the investment in Aurora, you failed to pick the equity accounting. Now, these are obvious mistakes. Either the students were overthinking about goodwill, impairment of goodwill, or the students were not even picking the sentence that the value in use is wrongly calculated. And you were writing everything you could write about impairment. You could have written everything about goodwill. You were going about it. Conclusion on prioritization of risk was not given or vague. Isn't that clear to the students that you have to give a conclusion after the risk of material misstatement requirement or after the audit risk requirement? And the conclusion, the purpose of the conclusion is to prioritize the risk. Which of the two risks above are more important and why? How many times I've told this that you have to give a conclusion, which is very, very important. Look at this. You go down the student answer and see the conclusion here. As per the materiality, the above risks have been prioritized according to their quantitative risk, with the first being the government grant of 12.4 million, inaccurately recorded to overstate the profit before income and taxes for a better financial position, followed by the acquisition of Zenith and the rest. So this student is saying that I have picked the priorities on the basis of the quantitative amounts. So to me, the first one is the government grant at 12.4 million, and then the acquisition of Zenith is the second most important risk, and four. What's the student justification of prioritization? Prioritize according to their quantitative elements. The next student. Conclusion. Based on the quantitative measure, the government grant amounting to 12.4 million is the most significant risk identified, as if the grant is not recognized, the profit of Regal Group in the current year would be zero. After the government grant, the other significant risk would be the acquisition of Aurora if the accounting is not correctly done for joint venture. So you need to justify which two of the above risks are to be prioritized and why. Because conclusion is basically the prioritization paragraph. You need to tell that which two are to be prioritized and why. See, I written over here in the student answer, judgment. The student is getting the professional skill marks for judgment by writing this conclusion, by exercising the judgment that which two of the risk above is to be prioritized. Every student will have a different judgment. Some will say that the risks to be prioritized are the ones which involve the management bias or are the ones which involve estimates. It's not necessarily that you prioritize only the quantitative risk or in the quantitative order. You can also prioritize a risk based upon certain characteristics like management bias, like subjectivity, like estimate, impairment. Impairment has so much estimates, right? In the fair value, in the recoverable amounts, you could justify that impairment is a prioritized risk because of the involvement of significant subjectivity and estimates of the management and a greater risk of management bias. So it's not just the quantitative conclusions you have to give every time. It could be management bias, it could be estimate, it could be subjectivity, it could be something new like the acquisition is a major event, like the investment in Aurora was for the first time. So investment in Aurora, acquisition, these are two very important events. This could be a justification itself, right? So there could be hundreds of justification that which two of the above risks are important and why. Is that clear to all of you? And you will be fetching your marks for professional skill, judgment as a professional skill. When you exercise a judgment, when you tell these two are important and why, and every student will have a different perspective. There is no right and wrong answer. Is that clear to all of you? So please ensure that you're giving a conclusion. And where are you giving the conclusion? Right after the requirement of ROM, right after the requirement of audit risk. So where the audit risk requirement ends, you will give a conclusion. Where the ROM requirement ends, you give a conclusion. And also, if you don't want to use the heading of conclusion, you can use the heading of prioritization. So you can also say prioritization and write a paragraph. You can say conclusion and write a paragraph, because eventually in the conclusion paragraph, you are doing prioritization. Is that clear to all of you? So please ensure you have a communication skill marks in question number 1. So the structure of the briefing note has to be perfect right from the start to the end. So right from the to, from, date, subject, introduction. You come to the requirement number A, planning matters. You write the answer for planning matters. Then requirement B, risk of material misstatement. You write the heading materiality. Then you write the number of risk of material misstatement. Then under that, you write your conclusion. Then you move on to the part C, procedure, and part D, ethics. So that's the structure, which itself giving you the 4 marks on communication. No, 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 not at all, Fatima. You don't need to write in the sequence of prioritization. When you're writing the ROM answer, you can write it in any order. You might write in the order in which the risks are coming to you. So you might find some risk in exhibit 2. You might find some risk in exhibit 3. So in whichever order they are coming in, Fatima, you will be writing it in that form. But in the conclusion, you will tell which two of the above are more important and why. Is that clear? And Adnan, no conclusions for business risk, right? No conclusions for business risk. You only write business risk 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and you start the next requirement, B or C or D. There is no conclusion for the business risk, right? Are you clear, Adnan, as well? Okay, good. Next. Question number 1 still. Procedures on impairment in part C were mostly satisfactory as this topic is tested so many times in past paper. You know this, right? Impairment is the favorite area of the examiner and students were very well versed with procedures. I don't find much of the issues in procedures. Yes, there were procedures for 6 marks, so some wrote 4 and 5. That's the problem. Few got to 6, and some even got to 7 and 8. And I've told you that the first 6 procedures will be checked, not the 7th, not the 8th. So don't be in any hope that if I write 8 procedures, whichever 6 will be correct, the marker will award me. No, 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 please. The marker will be checking the first 6. The he or she, the marker, will not be even bothered about checking the 7th and 8th. So please be particular, not writing any extra procedures in exam. Procedures are written like sentences, Ria. What has happened to you? See, let me show you that. Procedures are just written like sentences, mere sentences. See this? This is how you write procedures. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like 1.5 line or 1 line, sometime 1 line, sometime 1.5 line. Look at the procedures in front of your screen, Ria. This is how exactly you write them. So procedures are not like a story, right? Procedures are just mere sentences. 1.5 line, 1 line maximum. And that's how you write the procedure. Is everyone clear? Okay. Hmm. One last thing from the question number 1. Ethics in the D part for 10 marks. Ethical issues in the requirement D, you know how critical that is in the question number 1, was well captured too, with some issues about the presentation of the issues, presentation of the ethical issues. No using, not using headings or splitting them for the gaining journal professionalism marks and making marker life easier. I don't know why don't you split your answers into headings? Why don't you want to make the marker life easier? Why don't you want to get the journal professionalism marks by arranging your answers with headings and subheadings? Headings and subheadings is part of your journal professionalism marks, part of your communication skill marks. So communication means clear. So headings and subheadings makes the communication more clear. So a lot of time the student wrote the ethical issues without headings and subheadings. Let me show you a good student answer here. Look at the ethical issues. D. Look at the student answer. Financial advice. So even the marker checking the paper would know, okay, you're writing about the financial advice being the first issue. Second, audit of Imperial Company and Regal Leisure Group. That was the second issue, conflict of interest. Third heading, attending the board meetings. Fourth, temporary CFO. Look at this answer and look at every heading and look at the paragraph 1, 2, 3 under attending the board meeting. Look at the way the student has structured uh, communication skill. Communicate means if I'm reading this answer, if the marker is reading the answer, it's so easy for me to pick a point from every para. So this is the beautiful way to present your ethical answer with headings. Same goes with planning matters for the first year audit. Look at the other student answer. See, the student put the heading conflict of interest because that was the issue one. Board meetings, financing of the acquisition, secondment of the audit manager, and even the student gave a conclusion because this word was evaluate. It's not necessarily that you give a conclusion for, you give another conclusion in question number one for ethics. Even if you give it, it's fine. You need a conclusion for ROM. You need a conclusion for audit risk, which comes right after audit risk and ROM. That is a must conclusion. If you fail to give a conclusion for ethics, because the question was asking evaluate the ethical issues, so evaluate means to conclude. So if you give a conclusion for ethics, that's good. If you fail to do so, nothing to worry about. But one conclusion, which is on the prioritization of the risk, is important. So please ensure that you all stick to this. So I hope you got some learnings from the question number one. You got some problems from the question number one. Just a quick recap. Um, Introduction being too long. Number two, materiality was not properly framed up for 3 marks, what you have to do for 3 marks. The paragraph on materiality was wrongly placed in the briefing note. The planning matters for 5 marks was just given like sentences, or some student even thought about client acceptance matter, which was totally wrong. Uh, sorry, investment in Aurora was not properly dealt with, as a lot of students didn't thought about equity accounted. They thought it about like a subsidiary. The acquisition of Zenith was not properly dealt in. It was an ICE 10. The student failed to bother about ICE 10. They thought about goodwill, recognition of goodwill, and impairment of goodwill, which was wrong. In Exhibit 3, the impairment, though it was a pretty easier area, the student failed to comment on the wrong calculation of value in use, which was the most critical part of the impairment scenario. Conclusion on prioritization was either weak, missing. You need to know what you have to do in the conclusion paragraph. You need to justify which two of the above risks are to be prioritized and why. And the justification is not just the quantification justification. It could be management bias, subjectivity, estimate, anything being done for the first time, etc. The procedures were good, satisfactory, and ethical issues. The only issue was that you failed to present them in like headings and subheadings, making the life of the marker easier. Apart from that, we know students are fairly good on the side of ethics in AAA. So this is the question number one, and this is the brainstorming of question number one and the issues identified. Is that clear to all of you? Just let's quickly move on to the question number two. And lastly, failure to capture easy professional marks around communication. If you're not adhering to the instruction of the partner, just like in the part A, it was telling us that the client has been accepted. Still, you wrote about client integrity. Still, you wrote about ethics. You're losing your communication skill marks if you're not adhering to the instruction of the partner. You have to structure the briefing note nicely to get your communication skill marks. Analysis and judgment. Judgment, prioritization of risk. Judgment, materiality. 5%, 10%. Will you choose 5%? Will you choose 10%? Justify why. Will you choose 7%? So the justification of your materiality is also a judgment, and the conclusion is also a judgment. And communication is the briefing note itself. Skepticism. Let me show you some examples of skepticism, which the student have demonstrated in the answer. Not all of you have demonstrated, but some of you have done it brilliantly. Let me show you an example of skepticism. Look at this point of the student here on the screen here. Can you all I'm giving you 1 minute. Can you all just read this point of the student risk of management bias and see what I wrote here? Good demonstration of skepticism. Can you just read it? Your time starts now. Paragraph on risk of management bias. Have you all read the paragraph on management bias, that how the student worked on it? How the student thought that the entire $12.4 million was included in the profit because of the reason to boost the profit, because the government grant was recognized fully. You have not even spent a single penny from the government grant, and you recognized it fully. And interestingly, the profit of the company was 12.4 million. The grant amount was 12.4 million. So had you not recognized the income from the grant, your profit would have been zero. So probably this is a perfect example of management bias. So the student demonstrated skepticism. Look at another example of where you can demonstrate analysis and skepticism going together in the exam paper. I think that was in the second student answer. See, this student wrote over here. The student mentioned here that if the grant income would not had been recognized, the profit for the year would had been zero. Then he says the audit team should use professional skepticism in this area, as this could lead to material misstatement in the financial statement. So the student wrote that the profit would had been zero if this income would not had been recognized. So we need to be skeptical here. What is the reason? Why is the management recording the grant income as a full? Do they want to overstate their profit? So statements like such is good in exam when you want to make use of your skepticism skill. I think I had another question which are just missing out somewhere, uh, which I need to show you, but probably I have lost it somewhere, so will not take much of your time. We can move on. Uh, I just need to add another example for that, but probably I'm missing it out somewhere. Okay, let's leave it out, right? So please ensure, even for analysis, right? A lot of time the student can find the percentages rising and falling. Some of the student even said that the revenue of the company is rising by 21%, and it could be overstated. So some of the student went to the financial statement and found that the revenue is rising by 21%. So if you found such percentages, that's part of your analysis skill. Making use of the ratios or making use of the rise and falls in the financial statement numbers, or relating the risk with the numbers in the financial statements, that's even part of your analysis skill. So you can make greater use of your professional skill marks. Okay, quickly to question two. I'll just take another 15-20 minutes and wrapping it up on question two and three. Not major issues on two and three, but just let's have a quick scan of it. In the question number two, it was around two organizations. One was Curly, one was Larry. These were the two clients of the audit firm. In the part A, there was a critical appraisal of the audit report. And how many times this question has come? Critical appraisal of the audit report. But despite that, there were some issues in the critical appraisal of the student. First of all, the presentation of the critical appraisal was an issue in majority of the scripts with the headings with headings or segregations. So you are not using the proper headings. Just let me show you something here. If I go back to the question paper and I take you to the question here, which is on your screen, you have to do the critical appraisal, right? In the part A. And this is where the critical appraisal was given to you. Look at this extract of the report. An extract of the report is shown below, right here. And in this extract, they've given us headings. Auditor report to the shareholder, that's number one. The number two heading is emphasis of a matter paragraph. And the number three headings is basis of opinion and opinion, right? Now, when you're writing the answer and you want to make the life of the marker easier, you will open up the word processor, suppose like this. And just let me show you one thing. See this. Look at my answer. I used the heading auditor report to the shareholder that was given exactly here. And then I wrote my answer under the auditor report to the shareholder, whatever I need to tell, was it right, was it wrong? Then I used the second heading, emphasis of a matter paragraph, right over here. And then I wrote under, was it right? Was it wrong? Should the emphasis come? Should the emphasis not come? Was it material? Was it immaterial? Whatever. I wrote all under that. Then I used the heading, basis of opinion and opinion, because that is exactly what is used by the examiner. So I used the heading here, basis of opinion and opinion, and whatever I need to write about it, that there has to be two paragraphs for basis and opinion. Opinion should come first, basis should come after. The opinion should be specified. Is it a disclaimer of opinion or qualified opinion or adverse opinion? Whatever you need to write about this particular area, you will write under the heading of basis of opinion and opinion. So use the segregation given by the examiner, and you need to write about it under that. So I use the three headings given by the examiner in the extracts: basis of opinion and opinion, emphasis, and auditor report to shareholder. Now, the marker checking the paper would be very happy because he or she knows that, okay, this is the appraisal about the title of the report. This is the appraisal about the emphasis of a matter paragraph, and this is the appraisal about the basis of opinion and opinion. So you will get your marks. I've done a mock debrief on question number 2. You can watch it. But that was a basic problem. The student went down explaining it very, very badly, very unstructured. They tried using the headings which were not relatable to the extract given by the audit senior. Is everyone getting this point? So please ensure you use the proper headings and segregations as used in the extracts given by the examiner. Some students said EOMP is inappropriate. The matter should go in CAM. I don't know what happens to the student that try to bring the entire reporting knowledge, audit report knowledge into place. Emphasis was wrong, right? It was, first of all, it was a disagreement. Secondly, it was immaterial. And we know emphasis never come for a disagreement. Emphasis never come for immaterial things. So on both grounds, the emphasis was illogical. If it was a disagreement, and if it was immaterial, then how would CAM come in? Was it a listed company, first of all? Secondly, why would CAM come? We are saying emphasis should not come, and you're saying CAM should come. I think this is something which happens in an audit report question. The student tried to mess up things, right? So that was the most strange thing I found in a student answer, that he's saying emphasis should not come, rather a CAM should come. So that was the most strange element. Most students fail to justify whether the opinion in the extract was right or wrong. This is the most important thing in the critical appraisal, right? To justify whether emphasis was right and wrong, and to justify that the opinion given in the opinion paragraph, was it right, was it wrong? So this is the most important part of the critical appraisal, to justify the opinion. Is it right? Why? Is it wrong? Why? And when you say it is wrong, why? You have to tell the right opinion. If you say this is right, you simply justify it's right. And if it is wrong, you justify this is wrong, and then you tell what is the right opinion. So please remember the steps, right? When you are justifying the opinion. So opinion may be right, may be wrong. So if it is right, justify it's right and why. If it is wrong, justify why it's wrong, and then tell the correct opinion. But most of the student fail to pick up that there has to be a disclaimer of opinion, because the development cost was material and pervasive to the profit before income taxes. It was, I think, 141% of the profit before income taxes. And if the development cost is to be expensed out, the profit will turn to losses. And how many times I've told you that if the profit turned to a loss, that is pervasive, because that is something given in ISA 706 specifically. Profit turn to loss because of an adjustment, it is automatically a pervasive element. So that was pervasive. Some students picked it nicely that it is pervasive, and a disclaimer should be given. We had a scope limitation in question number 2. Student said adverse opinion should be given. When we give an adverse opinion, when we have a disagreement with management which is pervasive, but we had a scope limitation in question number 2. I failed to understand that why student talked about the adverse opinion. So most of the students failed to pick up that the development cost was a material and pervasive matter, resulting in a disclaimer of opinion due to scope limitation. Some students judge matter as material only, and concluded on a qualified opinion. Was it a material matter? The profit, it was 141% of the profit, and you're still saying it's material matter? Some student treated the matter as pervasive and concluded on an adverse opinion when it was a scope limitation. What has happened to all of you? If it is a pervasive matter and a scope limitation, then we go to disclaimer. Adverse opinion is a disagreement with management, right? So why you mix up things in audit report, I fail to understand. Instead of emphasis scam, instead of a scope limitation, you're saying it's a disagreement. You're just spoiling things up. I don't know why you start to bring so much knowledge in an audit report answer when you can keep it segregated. So these were some issues I found in the critical appraisal. Uh, I've shown you some scan of good answers on critical appraisals as well, just in a few minutes. This is, see, this was so nicely done by the student, giving the heading of title of the report, emphasis, and basis of opinion, and then going down under the basis of opinion, the student saying it's 141% of the profit, and thus a disclaimer of opinion should be given. This is the way you do it, right? The student used exactly the same headings given in the extract of the report, basis of opinion and opinion, emphasis, and the title of the report. And under each heading, the student explained the answer and justifying that it's pervasive and justifying that it's disclaimer. That is something the student missed mostly. Okay, moving next. In part B, matters and actions for management imposed scope limitation for 5 marks. Majority failed to reach 5 points, which was strange enough. The question was very simple. The question was asking for matters and actions for management imposed scope limitation. If the management has imposed a scope limitation on you, what will you do? They're not giving you access to the trials, which can give you evidence whether the development cost should be capitalized or expensed out. Now, the management has imposed a scope limitation. What will you do? First of all, you try to find an alternative. Is there an alternative way to gather evidence? Number one. Number two, definitely, you will discuss with management that uh, this scope limitation is against the precondition of the audits. The precondition of the audit says that auditor have access to all information and explanation. Number three, you will justify the management that you have signed the audit engagement letter, and in the audit engagement letter, we made it clear that the management responsibility is to provide access to all information and explanation. So you are denying from the terms of our engagement. You're denying from the audit engagement letter. Then you will discuss with the management the implication on the future of the auditor client relationship if this limitation is not removed, because the auditor would definitely step down as an auditor at the end of the audit, because this is a very strange behavior of the management. You will also question the client integrity. Why are they putting a scope limitation? This will challenge the integrity of the client. And if you have taken any representation from the client before this scope limitation, that representation will also become questionable because of the overall doubt on the client integrity. So these are five matters you could have written. So I fail to understand that why student failed to do so. This was such a simple question that you need to write about the management imposed scope limitation way forward. Management has put a scope limitation on you. What will you do now? So this is important. So some of the students wrote some wonderful answers on management imposed scope limitation. But again, the way to write the answer is also very important. Just let me show you a quick glimpse of the student answers in mock, how perfectly they went down into. Look at this student for 5 marks. Under the heading of communication with those charged with governance, the student wrote 1 para, 2 para, 3 para. 3 para means 3 marks. Other significant area, another para. Reappointment as an auditor, that we should step down as an auditor, 5. See, 5 paragraphs under 3 headings. So that's exactly equal to 5 marks. So this is a way to present the answer. You can look at another student answer on the same subject matter. See, this student wrote scope limitation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The student wrote 5 paras, but didn't make use of headings. And I prefer headings. I think headings makes your answer stand out. So in the exam, if I would prefer that you use headings, but if you can't, but look at this format, how clearly this has been written. You can see 5 discrete paragraphs, and after every paragraph, the student leave a space. You can press enter, leave a space, then start the next paragraph. So you have gaps between the paragraphs. It's a computer based exam, right? You can present your answer so beautifully. You can bold something, you can underline something, you can give space between paragraphs. But why you are making even a computer based exam like a pen and paper exam by writing all congested answers? So please ensure you act responsibly on the day of exam, which is coming up pretty soon, right? Some students for part B simply listed points in bullets with little or no development of point. The second, sorry, the part B, the one we were discussing currently, the management imposed scope limitation, you simply listed the points with no development. I've just shown you how the answer has to be developed. In part C, reliance on internal auditor. Student failed to connect the case to the case, the matters like independence, competence, experience, and work documented. You know, when you rely on the work of internal auditor, these are common matters like independence, competence, experience, and work documented. But you had to connect with case. There were plenty of information in the case to connect independence to, competence to, experience to, and work documented to. I've already done a mock debrief on the question two, so you can watch my mock debrief on YouTube for a better connection. Question number 3 around Hogsmeade and Wellness Healthcare Company. Again, 2 companies came into this question as well. Part A tested the typical requirement on matters in accepting an engagement to perform the assurance on sustainability report for 12 marks. Now, honestly, tell me, how many times in the past paper you have seen questions around practice management? How many times you've seen this question, matters in accepting an engagement, whatever the engagement is, due diligence, forensic, review of prospective financial information, or sustainability report? You know the parameters, right? Some of the parameters are very common. Like when you're accepting the engagement, you will be looking at some ethical issues, you will be looking at your competence, you will be looking at the deadlines, you will be looking at the scope of the work, you will be looking at the fees level, etc. Now, these are quite common phenomena which can fit in any question of matters in accepting the engagement. Am I right? Are these common matters? Fees, deadlines, ethical issues, competence. If it is a new client and you're accepting an engagement from a new client, then even client integrity would come in. So you have to be watchful of the scenario. Was it a new client? Was it an existing client from whom you are accepting the engagement? If it is an existing client, no worries. If it is a new client, then even the client integrity would also come in as part of matters in accepting the engagement. But these are common phenomena, right? Right or no? Can I get your answers quickly? Yes or no? Right? So this is important, right? But you were dealing with sustainability report. And have you all covered ISSA 500 ED from my lectures? Have you all covered ISSA 500 ED from my lecture? Hmm, right? Do you all know about the terminologies used in ISSA 500 ED? So, writing the journal points is one part of the answer, right? Fees and deadlines and competence and scope and client integrity, if it is a new client. Again, I'm saying that, right? Client integrity, if it is a new client. But then you get back to this. There could be some specific problems in the scenario. There were. I think the management was doing this sustainability report for the first time. They had no clear ideas of the boundaries and the scope of the sustainability report. Even about management and auditor responsibility needs to be segregated because the management is doing it for the first time. You need to make management very clear that you are responsible for preparing the sustainability report. We're just here to give you an assurance. Now, tell me honestly, do we need to talk about greenwashing? There was plenty of evidence in the scenario that the management is doing greenwashing. Few students wrote about it. Few students use this terminology, greenwashing. Greenwashing, is a management bias, is the fabrication. But greenwashing is a terminology to be used in sustainability report. There were evidence of greenwashing, and some student did made use of it. Assurance level. Uh, you all know that in a sustainability report, the assurance level is undefined. You need to agree that with management. It could be reasonable, it could be moderate, right? So you need to agree with management as part of accepting an engagement, the level of assurance. What level of assurance they want, reasonable or moderate? Because that will affect the scope of your work. That will affect the fees. Greenwashing. How much greenwashing risk is there in the sustainability report prepared by the management? Double materiality. Have you heard this term before, right? We have covered this in our classes, double materiality. You could have wrote a heading about double materiality. Because when we are saying the management is doing it for the first time, you want to define the scope. So as part of accepting an engagement, you want to know, has the management applied the double materiality concept in preparing the sustainability report? And you know what double materiality is? The impact of the environmental activities on the business and the impact of the business on the environmental activity. So has the management considered both sides when determining the sustainability report? Because again, that will help you judge your scope. So double materiality was used in rare answers of the student. Greenwashing, assurance level, apart from the normal things you write in a typical answer on matters in accepting an engagement. So this is important, right? So that was a mixed performance. Some student failed to reach 12 marks. Answer means 12 points. 12 points doesn't mean 12 headings, but 12 marks means you can have 6 headings, and under every heading you can have 2 points. Just let me show you an example that you can have less headings and more marks. Uh, just let me show you a student answer to this question. I think I've tracked one student answer for the purpose of this session. If we can just show you that. Just give me 1 second. Okay, yes. Can you see the student answer on your screen for 12 marks? The student wrote first, see the headings, first sustainability report. But under this paragraph, first sustainability report, even though it's one heading, but can you see this word furthermore coming here? In the heading number 1, can you see a word coming furthermore? So that means basically the student is writing another point, furthermore, or you say moreover, furthermore. So you're writing another point. So under the first sustainability report, the student wrote 2 points. So one heading, 2 marks. Then use the heading user of sustainability reports, level of assurance, assessment of the risk and resources. See how wonderfully the headings have been used in. Indication of greenwashing. See? And then he wrote furthermore. So that means in the paragraph of indication of greenwashing, the student is getting 2 marks. So headings can be less. It could be 6 headings making up the 12 marks because under every heading you wrote 2 points. Then he wrote about a possible conflict of interest. But look at the structure of the answer. Headings, paragraphs, furthermore, breaking your points. Wonderful answer. So please ensure if you're getting some common sense of presenting your answer from this session, even though it could be a bit longer session than expected, I'm just wrapping it up in 2 minutes. Part B of the question number 3, tested procedures on quantification of a billing fraud. How many times you've seen forensic questions around quantification of something? Not the first time, right? Quantification of a billing fraud. That billing fraud was given. You just need to read it and make 8 procedures around how would you quantify the billing fraud. And most students, even though they did well, but the only problem I found is they reach up to 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. Few of the students reached 8. So you need to have a technical sense of writing procedures and effective procedures in exam. Quantification of something has come so many times in past paper if you have done fair amount of papers on forensic. So this is it from this mock assessment and the uh, post result of mock assessment. When I've checked so many mock, I thought I should do a session with all of you to guide you about the common problems which can be helpful to you on Monday. I hope you get the structure, presentation, way of putting answer, how much to write, common problems. If you are doing these common problems, please ensure you start avoiding them over the next couple of days you have before you enter the exam. Is everyone clear with this session today? Was it beneficial? Have you learned something out of the session? Have you found some issues and mistakes you were doing? Have you got some clarifications to that? Right. So, some of your concerns have been addressed. Some of your problems have been addressed. Have you got some, have you identified that I was doing this mistake and I got to know about this from the session today? So please ensure that on Monday, first of all, be calm. On Monday, be focused. Read the requirements, read the note numbers under requirement, structure the briefing note well, go with the orderings, where to put materiality, where to put conclusion, what is to be written in conclusion, giving headings, giving paragraphs, and so on and so forth. Please, please, please be focused. I will be doing a motivation session in next 48 hours, just very close to Monday, because I just want to motivate you, inspire you towards success in upcoming September 25 exams. But you have to do your best on Monday, right? And ensure that the weaknesses identified in your mock, if you got the results, and the weaknesses identified in the session today will be should not be done in your real exams, right? Thank you very much for all of you taking your time out and coming in. I'll be sharing the recording of the session shortly. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz, all of you, and the very best of luck for your upcoming exams.